Very often, before you can actually speak to the decision maker, you need to overcome what? The gatekeeper, right? This person that many of you are dreading and just don't want to speak to, and because of that, maybe impolite, which is the worst thing that you can possibly do. Now, in this video, you're going to find out what to do to have high chances actually overcoming the dragon that is waiting there. And how to do that? Number one, let me ask you a question. Which one is better? Hey, this is Stefan De Vito from XYZ Company calling. I would like to talk to Mr. Smith. Or, hey, Stefan here, is Jack in? Yeah, I mean, I made it kind of clear which one is the better one, right? But if you're seeing something like this the first time, you might be like, really? I don't know the guy. Why can't I just say, is Jack in? Oh yes, you have to. Why? Because right now, your job is not to be selling anything or trying to give your offer. Right now, you only want to get across the gatekeeper. You want to get behind the dragon waiting there. Now let's assume you're actually getting through, you're speaking to the guy, but it turns out the guy is actually not the right person to speak to, which happens very often, right? If you don't have the exact right person, you have to kind of find a way. What are you gonna do next? You're not just gonna hang up and start from the start again. What are you going to do instead? Well, you are right now having an in-house referral. That's right, because that guy said, I'm not the right person. You would have to speak to X or this department, that department. So what are you gonna do next? You call probably another gatekeeper, but right now you have an in-house referral, which means Mr. Smith from said department asked me, not told me, asked me to speak to Mr. So-and-so from that department. And maybe you add about X, but you don't even have to. And all of a sudden you have an in-house referral. How cool is that? One more important aspect about this is that in-house referrals can go both ways. Very often people just want to start high and work their way down. Or sometimes people want to start low and work their way up. It goes both ways. Because sometimes the real decision maker is not the CEO, right? The CEO almost takes no decision. If you take all the decisions that happen in a big company, the CEO is not even going to have 1% of those decisions. And because of that, you just need to find the right person that goes up, or can go down the food chain or the hierarchy. Make sense? And finally, I give you another very strong way how you can overcome the gatekeeper, how you can get in front of them. And that is reciprocity. That is the psychological tendency that we all have as humans, that if somebody gives something to someone, that somebody is more likely to give back. And even if they know it, it happens to them. Now, do check your laws and regulation in your company before you do it, because certain gifts may not be allowed, but I can tell you what is almost always allowed. It is something that CEOs of America are using 52 times a year, and that the average American is just using once a year. What could it be? It is a book. It is a book. That's right. Think about who gives a book to somebody. For me, it's either my friends or family. It's really not something that I would give to a stranger, and that is why it's so perfect. Because if you show with a book about something specific that maybe could help that person, if you do some research here, some creativity, you're actually showing you care about their business. You want to advance them, you want to help them. And since people high up in the food chain usually are big readers, it is perfect. You found your way in, and now comes the strategy for the gatekeeper. Now that you sent a book to Mr. Smith, to Jack, guess what? If they ask, who's this? You're gonna be like, oh, this is Stefan, who sent Jack the book about X. You think there's a higher chance now that you're gonna be put through? Of course. Finally, what happens if the first strategy that I gave you, which is, hey, is Jack around? If that one doesn't work, what are you gonna do? If they say, what is this about? And you're sitting there and you're like, oh no, please let me through. What are you gonna say now? You're gonna say 2 words, and then using poisonous silence. Which 2 words? doesn't matter as much as the fact that you need to keep it short. You cannot tell them the whole story here. You're not trying to pitch to them right now. You're not even trying to make it appear like a sales call. You say 2 words and then you shut up. And your chances to be put through are way higher than if you try to explain yourself right now. To give you an idea what kind of 2 words you can say, it depends what you're selling, of course, and it depends where your ethics are. Only you can know that. But what I can tell you is, what you can always say is personal business. Even though I gotta say, in many instances, gatekeepers will see through it and will be like, personal business. Better even than that, say something personal. Now, depending on what you're selling, you could use this, which is very powerful but doesn't fit for every situation. If they ask, what is this about? You're saying the interview. That's it. Now, the good thing about that is it's ambiguous. It could be a job seeker. It could be them looking for an interview. It could even be an interview with television. It could also be an interview that you're trying to make, like a survey, right? So because it's ambiguous, it's perfect because you might land in the right category now of people I put them through. Now, again, depends on what you're selling and how much of fact finding and qualifying is involved that you can actually call this the interview. But it is a strong advice here that you might be able to use, and if you do, please let me know how it works for you. Now, before we move on, I want you to quickly review this video here. What did you learn? I give you a couple of seconds here. Think about what did you learn here that is useful for getting across the gatekeeper. How about what you're gonna say, the first thing you're gonna say? What next when they ask, what is this about? What about reciprocity that we talked about? And think about which kind of book could you actually give them? What about in-house referrals? How are you gonna deal with that? Now, before we move on into the next video, take another minute or so to reflect on these points and then meet me in the next one.